when we're having women that are struggling with their hormonal balances and they go to the doctor and the doctor are measuring it, they can see that it's a little bit off, they put them on medication. Next time the woman come back and you measure the levels again in the blood, and the doctors are like, this looks fantastic. And the woman is like, how can this look fantastic? I still feel like crap.
Haven't we heard this story before? It can be incredibly frustrating and disheartening when you're seeking medical help for menopause symptoms and you aren't receiving the support and answers you need. Hormonal changes with menopause can bring about a range of physical and cognitive effects, and solutions aren't always as simple as a visit to the family physician. It's not an uncommon story we hear. Women will find themselves in an endless cycle of symptom management solutions only to be left to their own devices, feeling hopeless, confused, and without any definitive answers to our issues. And this is the specialty of my next guest. In this episode, we unpack the benefits of the often overlooked supernutrient omega-3 with Swedish nutritionist Michaela Morrell. Michaela is an omega-3 expert. She soon will be launching her podcast called BodyHacking, Build a Better You, where she'll be sharing stories and expertise about healing while also inspiring people to become their own health advocates. Her own personal journey to discover the benefits of nutrition and then to pursue her passion as a nutritionist wasn't always that easy. For 2 years, she suffered a mysterious, debilitating pain that was robbing her of her happiness and enjoyment of being a mother of 3 beautiful children. Now, while eating well and supplementing was always part of her lifestyle, she still couldn't get the answers to her ailment. Until one day, a friend told her about a test. Just one test that could reveal all the clues and might get her health back. It was a game changer. Take a listen. I am so excited to start off my show with one of my first guests being in the field of nutrition, because I've been gravitating to the subject of nutrition personally because I have had gut issues I've suffered my whole entire life. It has sent me down a rabbit hole of research, and the more I uncover, the more fascinated I've become. So it's very serendipitous, I would say, that you and I should meet. So Michaela, thank you for being on my show, joining us all the way from Phoenix, Arizona.
Thank you for having me.
This will be a really interesting, informative episode for so many women, I'm sure, that are suffering. I hear it all the time. I'm everywhere I go, in the yoga studio, at the grocery store, talking to friends at get-togethers. Everybody is talking about wicked gut issues and the tummy bloat, inflammation, weight gain. You're working in that field. Tell us about your specialty.
I have a very interesting specialty in cellular health, gut health, and inflammation. And I go down to inflammation on a cellular level just because I truly believe that a healthy body begins with a healthy cell. And unless we are making sure our cells are functioning correctly, then it's hard for us to target other areas and try to improve our health.
So we don't think about cells like right down the micro level. We think more macro. My tummy, something I ate, indigestion, that doesn't sit well with me. Oh, my mother had this problem. My father had that problem. What is it about the cells that needs to be paid attention to more and more for our nutrition and our gut health?
Mm-hmm. You were talking about some stuff can be genetic and some stuff can be just from our environment. It's interesting to look at because the more you start understanding about the cell, because we have the cell and we have the cell membrane to protect our DNA. Okay. And a lot of people are just blaming whatever is happening to them because it's in my family. Mm-hmm. The more we start understanding about health is that a lot of the times things we believe is due to our genetics is more due to our microbiome, that we have inherited the same microbiome from our parents, and that we are eating the same type of foods that are feeding the same type of bacteria. So if my mom is struggling with depression, I am more likely to struggle with depression, not because of genetics, but because I inherited her microbiome. I've been eating the similar diet. We often keep on eating similar diet to when we were growing up, because that is our comfort food. That is what feels home to us. And that's what we're enjoying. And because we have been enjoying those types of food, we have the bacteria that likes feeding off them. So I just wanted to throw that in there in the mix to help us understand that a lot of what we're blaming on, it doesn't have to be that way. And it's all because of epigenetics. Okay. So we have our cells, we have our DNA. And just because our DNA is telling us something, it doesn't mean that all the DNA sequences are turned on. So if you think about it as a radio with different frequency stations, and in a perfect world, you would have the frequency of your favorite music and it would play that all day long. But when we are subjected to chemicals, stress, when we are struggling with leaky gut and all different things, and our immune system go on to being rambunctious because it just starts attacking everything, that radio is turned into another frequency. So a lot of our DNA, we have been able to see that in a lot of studies, that twins, for example, they have exactly the same DNA, identical twins. One can develop diseases that are from their family, one may not develop them. And it is all depending on how we are living our life and what we're eating and how our microbiome is doing. So gut health is one of the biggest topics we need to start talking more about. And it's not only what type of food are we eating organic? We need to start talking about, are we getting all the essential building blocks into our body? Is our body able to break them down into something that we can use? Are we able to absorb the nutrients? And then a lot of people stop their thought process there. We have them in our blood now. It looks perfect. The blood work looks good. But then again, we have to open up the conversation. Are the nutrients able to get into the cell?
What happens when they can't? When there's this block of the nutrients and the cell won't absorb what it needs?
So what is happening is that when our cell membranes are built up with the wrong building blocks, so we have building blocks that our cells need to be built up with. And we have proteins and we have fatty acids. And I'm focusing a lot on the fatty acids just because that is a conversation a lot of people forget. We are always talking about how important it is to replenish protein after we have been going to work out. Everyone knows that. They go to the gym, they get extra protein after a gym workout. But people forget the conversation about fats. And for years, women have been told that fats make you fat. You should try to avoid fat. You shouldn't eat that much fat. If you eat saturated fats, you will lead to heart attack. You will die prematurely if you eat them. So everything in the society is screaming, eat less fat. And our whole body is built up with fat. So what do you think the body will do when we are not getting enough of the essential fatty acids that we need? And in some areas, we're getting way too many of them because they sneak in fatty acids into products we think are healthy. So our protein shake can contain fatty acids that are pro-inflammatory. Our protein bars can contain fats that are pro-inflammatory. And everything that is processed out there, every single restaurant meal you're eating, they're cooked in the fats, omega-6s, that are pro-inflammatory, seed oils.
Yeah. So we have good omega and bad omega, so to speak, like one that's pro.
So I don't usually say good and bad. I say pro versus anti-inflammatory because just because we have, of course, some fatty acids are rancid. Some fatty acids are easier to oxidize. And when they have been processed more, they're more harmful for our body. So if we get omega-6s from vegetables, from fruit, from things that are growing, because omega-6 comes from everything that is growing, if we make it easy to understand. If we get it in that form, then they can be very good. But when we get it in form of soybean oil and quinoa oil and processed vegetable oils, then they become harmful for us because, first of all, they're processed in a way that is not good for our body. We're simply getting too much of them.
Because it's so concentrated, so dense.
It's so concentrated.
Okay.
Avocado oil have been, for example, been something that people think is a healthier alternative. Or grapeseed oil. And grapeseed oil have a very big imbalance between omega-6 and omega-3 fatty acids. I think it's 120 to 1. So it's like you get so much omega-6s when you're not supposed to get that. Like throughout the history of human beings, we have never been eating seed oils.
Okay.
Until the Second World War. After that, we started implementing it into our world.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for it was a beautiful reason. Everyone was starving. We needed another fat source because they were just starving. It was too little meat left. It was too little butter, too little milk, and people did not have access to any fat sources. So the food industry developed vegetable oils in order for us to get fats out to the humans. And they suddenly recognized that, oh, this is very shelf stable. We can ship it all over the world. It is, and then it started being promoted as a good fat source.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is that we were just a part of a very big science project. And today we can see the aftermath of it because no one knew if it was safe for us to consume those. And today we start knowing more about it.
Why aren't we hearing about this? Why isn't this hitting mainstream?
Because we're still 30 years behind that. So it takes some time for people to get caught up into new literature, new science, and so on. It took the doctors about 30 years from when they knew the science were pointing at vitamin D was something essential. We could die if we don't get enough of vitamin D. A lot of people are low on vitamin D, and it took them 30 years from we knew that until it started becoming something that you took a test for every single time you go into the doctors and you see something is wrong. Then it is normal now to test vitamin D. But it takes about 30 years for something to be implemented into our new routine. And today everyone knows about vitamin D. But 1990 or 1980, it was very few people that knew about it.
When it comes to the omega-3s and 6s, we're always hearing about, it's also a latest buzz, if you will. We see it on the shelves and bottles of omega-3, omega-6. But how do we know, like we're hearing it, it's marketed, this is good for you. But how do we know? How do we find the balance?
Yes. So here's the thing. If you see a product, people hear that omega-6, omega-3, omega-9 are super good. And then they bottle it up in the same product. And they don't understand that the reason why we need more omega-3 is to balance out all the omega-6s we are eating through our diet. So if you see a bottle that says 3, 6, and 9 are the same thing, avoid it. Avoid it. It should not contain sunflower oil. It should not contain any seed oil together with your omega-3. They can market it as fancy as they want to, but that product is not going to help you get into omega balance. And omega balance is something I talk a lot about, like the balance between omega-6 and omega-3.
Okay.
And that's why I'm like, I don't want to label omega-6 as bad either, because when we cut ourselves and we start bleeding, if we're having too little omega-6, then we will bleed out because there is nothing starting the inflammation that needs to happen for us to stop bleeding.
Okay, right.
So they are very useful. We need them in our system. But the problem is that when we just have omega-6s and omega-3s, we just start the bleeding and we don't have anything that stops the bleeding, then it becomes harmful again. So we need to make sure that we have enough of omega-3 to help say, okay, we're done bleeding now, everything, the threat is gone, we can start to cool down, but we need that balance. Because what is happening on a cellular level is that those omega-6s and those omega-3s, they're building up the cell walls.
Okay. Yep.
And if we don't have enough of omega-3s, what's happening? We have plenty enough of omega-6s, so we build cell membranes with more omega-6s.
And that is not good for the body.
It's not very good for the body because we are creating that low-graded chronic inflammation that is just running in the background the whole time. And it takes a lot of energy, it takes a lot of effort for the body to be able to handle this chronic, low-graded chronic inflammation. And since we're talking about hormones, how does this affect our hormonal system? Well, on top of our cells, we have hormone receptors. So we have different receptors for different hormones. And those hormones are supposed to hang out in our bloodstream and then attach to the hormone receptor. But the science is pointing towards, and I've seen this in real cases too, that when we are struggling with too many omega-6 molecules building up our cell walls, because of their chemical structure is different. They're different. So if you're imagining the fatty acids as two balls, and the omega-6 tails, they're going straight down. As for the omega-3 tails, they're very wavy. So when you're building up a cell membrane with only omega-6s, they have very straight tails. You can pack more molecules into a smaller area. With the omega-3s, they're wavy, so it makes it more permeable and more flexible, building up the cell membrane with more omega-3 molecules.
And we want that because those are where the receptors lie?
So we want that because the nutrients are able to get into the cell membrane and waste and toxins are able to get out. We need the nutrients to not only get into our bloodstream, we need them inside of our cell to be able to create the energy we need. Yes. And to keep our cells healthy and functioning. But what we also see is that the more omega-6s builds up the cell membrane, and that low-graded chronic inflammation, that can cause the hormone receptors to be numbed out. When the hormone receptors are numbed out, they're still there, but the hormone is not able to attach to them.
So they're basically desensitized, if you will.
Exactly. And then they're not working very well. When we're having women that are struggling with their hormonal balances and they go to the doctor and the doctor are measuring it, they can see that it's a little bit off, they put them on medication. Next time the woman come back and you measure the levels again in the blood and the doctors are like, this looks fantastic. And the woman is like, how can this look fantastic? I still feel like crap. And the woman goes back home, well, all my levels are perfect now. I should be better, but something is still wrong. What's wrong with me? Very often it is because our cell membranes are not able to receive those hormones into the receptors, so they're not able to function.
Just a baseline blood test is so superficial then. It's not really taking that deeper dive.
No, it's not able to.
So how does a woman then figure out, how would she find someone like you?
Well, you find me.
How is it that you have the science out there and well-researched, of course, and women are struggling and they, like you said, the results are saying you're fine. You're on the right track. Keep doing what you're doing right now. And they're not getting the results. And they're feeling completely up in arms and saying, it's just got to be the transition. It just has to be the change of life. It's going to go away. But it never does. And it just gets further and further exacerbated. And the inflammation increases. And of course, as we've come to understand, this is the beginnings of disease in the body.
Yeah.
But when you're going out there with this information, you want women to better understand. But how are the clients, first of all, figuring this out and landing on you to get that help? And we'll take that further. We'll start with that question first.
The question was that how do they find out about how they can measure this?
And get on the road to healing.
It is hard because we are living in a phase where you cannot just do ads or do any statements out there without a lot of people trying to shut the information down. So it is hard. So I don't know. I found it out just because of a friend that called me that said, I know that you have studied to become a nutritionist. I found a blood test you should look into. I found some omega-3s that you should look into. And at first I was like, well, I've been using omega-3 for the past 6 years. I'm good. I've been preaching about omega-3 for many, many, many years. I was living in Norway. I've been eating fish, like 5 servings of fish every week. I live a healthy lifestyle. I know my omegas. I have been reading up so much on what to read from the label and so on. So I'm good. But the interesting part was that she said, but there is a test. And when I was able to look into the test and take a test myself, I was so fascinated because here I am, a pretty healthy individual with a pretty healthy diet compared to most, and been using supplementation every day for over 6 years. And what my test showed was that I had 9.6 omega-6 molecules to every omega-3 molecule. And you want to have a balance, and 1-to-1 is like I don't have to say that it's the most optimal, but the body strives to 1-to-1. 2-to-1 can be more optimal in some cases, but 3-to-1 is what is considered safe. Everything above 3-to-1 can be causing us issues depending on our body, depending on our DNA. They have been able to see that people with colorectal cancer benefits from a 2-to-1 ratio, and a 4-to-1 ratio is not giving them any benefits. So there is a little bit different where you should be, but the closer to 1-to-1 is what we're seeing is the most beneficial. But here I am, 9-to-1.
Wow. And all that fish that you'd been consuming.
All the fish, and my omega-3 index was at 5.6%. So omega-3 index is how much omega-3 you have in your blood. So you want to have at least 8%, and they say that the most optimal levels are 10 to 12% is what the science is showing.
Okay.
And here I was at 5.6%.
So low.
Pretty low for what I thought I was going to be with all of my supplementation, with all of my diet. But here's the thing. I had been struggling with health issues, pretty severe health issues. For 6 years, I hadn't been able to eat any fruits whatsoever without having an allergic reaction. And half of the veggies, I couldn't eat carrots, cucumbers, avocados, and so on. And especially the fats in avocado, I couldn't get it into my system.
Okay.
And for the past 2 years, after I had my 3rd child, I developed a chronic neck pain that caused me to feel like I was paralyzed. I could not get out of, it happened when I was on the couch. I was just laying there getting some skin-to-skin time with my daughter. Oh. And then I wasn't doing any movements or anything, but suddenly I just hear a snap in my neck. And I get the burning sensation from my head down my spine, and I wasn't able to move. My phone was just a hand away from my hand, but I could not reach it because I was in so much pain. I felt like I was paralyzed, and I couldn't move. I could move my hands and my baby, to cuddle with my baby, but I couldn't move my body to be able
to reach. Okay.
That phone. So I got stuck on the couch for over 3 hours before my husband got back home from work. And I was like, can you please change the diaper of the baby? She just pooped 2 hours ago, but I haven't been able to change it. And can you please come and help me? And hurry up, please.
My gosh, you must have been totally alarmed.
Yes, I did not know what was going on. I did not know if this was permanent or if it was a nerve that just made me feel like I was paralyzed, or whatever was going on. My husband got back to me, and he was asking if he just wanted me to call an ambulance. I'm a very anti-hospital unless I really, really need it. It's just because of my personality growing up as in the stable, being around horses, and the few times I've been going into the doctors, I haven't felt like I got help or been heard. I even went in with a broken arm once, and they're, no, it's not broken, go back home.
We have so much faith in our medical system, don't we?
I know I know there are amazing doctors out there, but I also know that sometimes it's not them living with your body. So what do they care?
We know our body's best. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and when you're sick too, you're not really, a lot of the people are not able to advocate for themselves. And if they don't have someone advocating for them, it is very hard to stand up and say, I think it is broken. I think you want to give me an x-ray, when you're 14 years old. And
that is exactly the kind of work that we need to do, is advocate on our own behalf. And that's what drew me to be a menopause doula. So I'm really curious. Let's carry on with that story.
Yes. So that was the start of, like, he was able to help me stand up, and I just hold and fixated my head myself. And when I was standing up, I felt, okay, I can move. It's painful, but I can move. I can walk. I can stand. So it must be some kink in the nerve, was my thought. So I was just like, help me to the bed. I'll just go and lay down. I got stuck in that bed for 3 days.
Oh, good Lord.
And I couldn't move my head, and I was in so much pain, and I did not want to take any pain medication because I had a newborn baby. I did not want to take in any medication that could be transferred to her. So I was just suffering. And eventually 3 days after, I went into the doctors. The doctors did an MRI. They checked everything they could check, and they couldn't find any problem. They couldn't find a reason for my pain, as I expected. So I went back home and I tried to figure it out myself. But this was something I could not figure out. I booked appointments with every single chiropractor I knew, with every single osteopath, with massage therapist, with sports massage therapist, with acupuncturist, with craniosacral therapist. I tried probably, 10, 15, 20 different pillows, tried to see if anything made a difference, bought new ones, bought memory foam, bought thin, bought thick. Like, I tried everything I can think of. And I was already eating healthy. I was already on supplementation, because I know that it's very low nutrients we're able to get through our diet unless we go back to start eating organs and things again. But I'm not the liver girl. I'm sorry, I would love to be, but I don't enjoy it. So I supplement with a healthy diet. And my body did not respond. I was just in so much pain. And standing completely straight up, I could move my head, but in any other position, my head got locked into that position. I could not just get my head back up again. I needed to use my hands to lift my head back up and in place for me to keep on functioning.
Okay.
So that affected my sleep, because my head would not follow my body. So every time my body would move, I would wake up in excruciating pain, and I would need to use my hands to move my head. I also had a newborn wanting to nurse every 2, 3, 4 hours.
Right.
So I entered a very dark time of my life where I was in so much chronic pain that my whole personality changed eventually, because I was like, I'm a very positive person, and suddenly I was in so much pain. I could not understand how I could live until I was 40 or 50 or 60, because I did not see a future with this pain.
Oh dear. Yeah.
But I tried everything, and I tried to stay hopeful. And every single appointment I had about one appointment every week. Every single person I met, the only thing they were able to say is, I've never seen a case like you. I don't know if I can help you. I don't know if you will ever get better.
Yeah. So basically writing your sentence.
Yeah.
For life. Oh gosh.
So
So what happened next?
So my friend called after 2 years of me dealing with this pain, because
It'd been 2 years now. Oh, Lord.
2 years. And I mean, I had started entering dark places, but I kept on living for my kids because I had 3 beautiful, lovely kids, and they were my whole life, you know.
Mhm.
So my husband, I love him too. He's amazing too, but it's just different, the bond you have between your
Mhm.
kids and your want to like survive for them.
Yeah.
And even if my hope did disappear, I tried to stay positive anyway. I tried to say, it's a phase, it will go over. Just one more day, it's a phase, it will go over. So eventually my friend called me and I was able to take this test. And for the first time throughout these 2 year process where I've been going to doctors back and forth, I did MRIs both in the United States, I did them back home in Norway. And finally, there was a test that showed red numbers. Something was wrong with me. And when I was able to find what was wrong with me, I could also correct it. Because now I had a measurement tool where I could see the improvements that happened when I tweaked my supplementation, when I tweaked my diet. And that's what was really the turning point for me.
Were you living in Norway at the time this happened?
At this time, yes, I was living in Norway. When I first started getting my pain, I was in Texas.
How did you come across this test? Is this something you could pick up at the pharmacy, or do you have to ask for it specifically with a doctor?
The doctors don't have the testing available most of the time. They don't understand it. They don't have any place they can order it from. And from my understanding, the few clients that have been able to order it from their doctor, they have been sending it off to Europe, and it's like a $4,000 laboratory fee.
Ooh,
so it is not something that a lot of doctors see the benefits of taking or allowing you to take, or if they have resources to order one. But there is some private laboratories, and the one I'm using is called Vita's Laboratory Analytical Service down in Norway, because they are the leading laboratory of fatty acid profiling. So I was able to find a company that sold tests that I ordered the test from, and I sent it into Vita's to analyze it. And that was how I found about it. There are more and more tests popping up, but it's important to understand it's not only important to measure your omega-3 index, because your index can vary through the day, depending if you are taking supplementation and you take a blood test an hour or 2 hours after you took a supplement, your index can look very good. But the more we start understanding about omega-3 supplementation too, is that they're only usually bioavailable 2 to 6 hours. Some better brands can be bioavailable 8 to 12 or 15, but most brands are not bioavailable for that many hours. So if you took a test in the morning, right after you took your supplements 2 hours ago, it can look perfect, but then in the evening, all your omega-3 fatty acids can be out of your system because they are oxidized, they're not able to be bioavailable. And if you took a test then, it could show you that, oh, your omega-3 supplementation do not work. Because the thing is with omega-3s, we need them in our system every single second of the day.
Sort of like a slow drip throughout the day.
We need it all the time because we are creating about 2 million of cells every second.
Okay.
So if you're only having omega-3 in your system for 5 hours, you will have healthy cells being regenerated during those 5 hours. But then again, you will have compromised cells being regenerated the rest of the day.
Okay. Yeah. So speaking about brands and products, how is the best way to ingest your omega-3s and get them into your system?
So the best omega-3s are omega-3 that have high polyphenol levels. A lot of people are just looking at the ratio of EPA and DHA and how much EPA and DHA you should get into your system. Mm-hmm. But the conversation should not be around that. The conversation should be, is your omega-3 product bringing you into an omega balance?
Okay.
Because if it's not helping you to get into an omega balance, where it's a 3-to-1 ratio, or 8% in omega index, then it is not useful for you. And it doesn't matter if you're taking it in the morning together with food, or if you're taking it in the night before you go to bed, because you need it in your system 24/7. What we should look at is, when you're looking at an omega-3 product, first of all, how much EPA and DHA are you getting? You need certain levels. I have calculated for my body, I need about 1,300 milligrams of EPA and 700 milligrams of DHA. And that is based on body weight. And that calculation had been good for me to get me an omega balance. Again, someone that is struggling with gut health and absorption problems, they might need higher dosage. They might need extra enzymes into their diet to be able to cut them into smaller pieces to be able to be absorbed.
Oh, okay. And that's the role of the enzymes.
So enzymes are cutting down our food into smaller pieces. And the enzyme that is cutting down the fatty acids is called lipase. When we have enough of EPA and DHA, we need to calculate, or look at what antioxidants are protecting this omega-3. Because omega-3, it comes mainly from the ocean in high quality. When you are looking in the ocean, though, it usually comes from algae. Algae is the first source of omega-3. Then plankton is eating algae, and small fishes are eating plankton, and bigger fishes are eating smaller fishes. But the omega-3 is created in the algae. Okay. And in the algae, they have polyphenols that are protecting the omega-3. The supplement industry have been understanding that we need omega-3, and they have wanted to earn money, so they're creating an omega-3 product because there is a need and a demand for it. But then when they're cleaning out omega-3, because it needs to be cleaned so much to make sure that it's not toxic, because when you're eating supplementation every day, small level of toxins over a long period of time build up to something bigger.
Right.
So they clean it out so well, but what's happening is that those polyphenols also get cleaned out. And then the industry is looking, we need to add an antioxidant to protect omega-3, because fish oxidize very quickly. If you can be out fishing, you come back home, you put it on the countertop on your kitchen. If you forget it there and not put it into the refrigerator, how many hours will it take before your whole house will smell like fish? Not very long. And our body is a lot warmer than room temperature.
Mm-hmm.
The fish oxidize very quickly, and that is something we have to understand. It's oxidizing very quickly, unless we're able to have an antioxidant that can protect it. And so the food industry are adding antioxidants, but they are just vitamin E. That's a fantastic antioxidant. Let's add that to our omega-3 supplementation. And then they're adding vitamin E, often listed like tocopherols or mixed tocopherols on the label, or it might be listed as vitamin E as well. But then they're having a product with omega-3 with vitamin E, and then people purchase it. And yes, vitamin E usually keeps your omega-3 fresh. So if you smell on it, if you taste it, it usually is tasting okay. Let me stop here and say this. If you have tried omega-3 and it have made you burp fish, if it smells fish, or if it tastes fish, it's already oxidized before you even take it.
So it's useless.
It's useless. So fish should never smell fish if it's fresh.
That's true.
Exactly. So growing up and going to school and university, I was actually working in a fish disc. And every day we would smell the fish before putting it out. If it smelled, toss it.
So a good quality of omega-3s, and I'm assuming now it's in the form of an oil, and
I prefer oil, because capsules, it's very hard for you. Unless you're opening up the capsules and are sucking it in or smelling it, it's hard to know if it's oxidized. Some people also struggle with absorption when it's a capsule, because it's not always been able to break down when it goes through our system. Mm-hmm. I'm one of those people that are struggling with capsule absorptions. So I can take 12 capsules of omega-3, or I can take 1 tablespoon of omega-3 to achieve the same result, but I rather do a tablespoon of liquid.
So then these products can you just buy them off the shelf, or is it better to go to a nutritionist such as yourself and have them ordered? Because you've done the work, you've sourced a good quality.
It is best to get them from somewhere. So when products are sitting on the shelf for a long period of time and you don't know the shipping method, you don't know how long time it has been sitting on the shelf, if it's a light bottle or a dark bottle and so on, you can lose a lot of the bioavailability just because the product is older too. So something that is good is to have products that are coming as fast from the warehouse as possible to your door. So it becomes more and more common to drop ship omega-3, for example. So the end customer gets the products right away and it haven't been sitting on the shelf for a long time.
Okay.
When you're doing that, often too, you're usually buying directly from the company, which means that you're cutting out a lot of middle hand. And when you're cutting those off, you can usually get a higher quality product for less pricing because the store and the employers and everyone is not going to get a fee. You just buy directly from the company. So there is more and more omega-3 companies popping up that are just selling omega-3 that you can drop ship to your door. But again, is the omega-3 product getting you in omega balance? That should always be the question. There's lots of companies out there that you can purchase from, but always take a blood test before you start. Take a blood test after 120 days to see where your levels are at, because it takes about 4 months, 120 days, for the red blood cells to have a good turnover. And we need to be able to have a test that not only measure the index, but measure how many pro versus anti-inflammatory building blocks that are actually building up the cell membrane. So that is what's unique, because when I tested it, I was able to see, okay, I had 9 to every omega-3.
So for someone to sit down, after, say, listening to this podcast or doing their own research, it's still very complicated, still understanding the levels and what they mean and what is balance and what's out of balance. And this is where you come in to play.
Yes. I mean, I have a big Facebook group with a lot of self-education in the Facebook group called Omega-3 We Share Experiences, where people, the stories and testimonials that are allowed in that group is only the ones that are measuring before and after and is actually able to get into omega balance.
Okay.
So
Smart.
You can come there, you can learn more about calculations and how to balance your omega levels.
We'll get the Facebook group in the show notes so our listeners can learn where to go. Let's talk about your business. What are your particular offerings for clients?
I have been offering a lot of free educational stuff on YouTube and in my Facebook group. I am about to redo my whole website and all the offerings, but it will be a lot of courses on cellular health, gut health, hormones, and how to feed our kid a better balance and so on. So a lot of courses will come up and group coachings will show up.
This is fantastic. I think a lot of women don't even know. I personally had gut health. I did my own research. I was able to balance it with the leading research, plus a lot of the courses I've been taking as a menopause doula. That's really set me apart from a lot of women who just would not know. This is a whole area that is not really talked about a lot.
So a lot of the gut health too is people are scratching the surface of our bacteria, our gut lining, and so on. But people forget that the whole gut is built up with cells as well. So if we are targeting it from a cellular level, we're also improving our diet with more probiotic-rich foods. We're also getting more prebiotics into our system that our good gut bacteria can metabolize to butyric acid to help the gut lining and everything. When you're doing everything in combination and making sure that you have enough of vitamin D, and for the vitamin D to be converted in our gut, we need magnesium as well, because a lot of people are just taking vitamin D, and doctors are not talking about this. Magnesium is needed for you to convert inactive form of vitamin D to an active form of vitamin D.
Oh, okay. So
You
when we buy
need-
it, it's inactive
It's
until
in
it's
active
oh,
form.
wow,
When you
this
go
is
out in the
great.
sun, you get inactive form. When you are getting vitamin D through your diet, it is in active form. It needs to be activated in our gut, and we need magnesium. If we don't have that, and if we don't have a functioning microbiome, you can eat a lot of vitamin D and your absorption will be very low.
Incredible. This is incredible information.
But a lot of people don't understand this. So I was one of those weird cases that even if I was living in Texas, even if I was out in the sun every day, my vitamin D levels were almost non-existent. I kept on getting sicker and my immune system was very off. After 4 months of being just constantly sick, I did not have any energy. I just wanted to lay and watch Netflix all day long. I could not get up. I was always having sore throat. I was always having some breathing issues and coughing. And it was just one thing after another. The only thing they could find was you're completely empty on vitamin D. And they prescribed me 20,000 units to take a few times a week. And
That's a lot of units.
It's a lot. But I had a very poor gut health. And that was the root cause, but no one is talking about that. No one is talking about your magnesium intake. So you don't need 20,000 units to be able to have enough of vitamin D if everything else is working and functioning.
But just enough vitamin D with the catalyst being magnesium to turn it on, switch inactive to active.
Yes.
To allow it to be absorbed effectively.
Yes.
I'm going to try to recap a few things here. Our omega 3 to 6 ratio is critical to be ideal balance, but anything from 3 to 1 and better is the safe. Okay. And about an 8% omega 3. You need it to be as little you need an antioxidant, which would be in the form of, say, a vitamin E, to ensure that it is not past oxidation state.
Vitamin E is not helping.
Not helping.
Vitamin E, when it binds together with omega-3, it can keep it okay when it's on the shelf before you take it. But as soon as it comes down to our gut and our enzyme starts breaking down our fatty acids to smaller pieces, vitamin E and omega-3 is usually separated. So then omega-3 is there to fend for itself. And when it's fending for itself, it's not bioavailable for that long. Okay. So that is the biggest thing. And most supplementations are made with vitamin E. So that is why it's important to read on the label to make sure it's not only vitamin E. We need polyphenols in the product because polyphenols and omega-3, they have a very strong binding. So even if they're cut down into smaller pieces, they're like this amazing power couple that just keeps on sticking together. And they're able to help the omega-3 to be bioavailable in your system for a lot longer time. And it can be the difference of being bioavailable for 35 hours instead of 6 hours. So it's a big difference depending on the antioxidant you're using.
This makes sense now. And then on top of that, as a supplement, vitamin D with magnesium for a healthy gut biome. There's so much. I need to bring you back more and more because I feel like we've just opened Pandora's box, but there's still much more to discuss. For our listeners, though, define DHAs and EPAs.
Mm-hmm. So EPA is the fatty acids from omega-3 that is building up every single cell in our body.
Okay.
It's a part of every single cell structure. The DHAs are essential. They also come from the omega-3, but they are the ones that are essential for brain function because 60% of our brain volume of the fat that is building up our brain is built up with DHA. Mm-hmm. So this is one of the reasons why women, for example, after they have been pregnant or when they're nursing, is struggling with brain fog or mom brain or whatever term we have labeled that with, is because if we're not getting enough through our diet when we are pregnant, How will the body be able to create a healthy baby brain so that we have a fetus that are alive unless we're getting enough? And when we're not getting enough through our diet, because those prenatals, that you need to make sure that you're getting good omega-3 that is not considered in the prenatal supplementation. Those are not enough for you. So what is happening is that the body is trying its best to create a baby that is healthy. So we're actually taking building blocks from our own brain and give it to the baby's brain. And that is why so many women are struggling with postpartum depression, anxiety.
Okay.
Yeah, DHA is essential for brain health, eye health, heart health.
Yeah. Of course, menopausal women, brain health, and there's more and more research coming out just in the recent years that are pointing more to the fact that menopause is actually a brain health issue, because when we see the very similar when we go through pregnancy, the estrogen and the progesterone levels change dramatically, impacting the brain, because the brain is looking for that fuel that it's no longer getting, the healthy fuels such as glucose coming from our food, which is the preferred fuel, but we're no longer getting it. So the foggy brain, even the depression and the anxiety, very similar to what you're saying too. Yeah, so DHAs.
Yes, and that is also called diabetes type 3, is a conversation a lot of people start having now that is also related to that. But and then hormonal production, estrogen and so on, we need fats and protein for that too. So that is another conversation we can have.
Yes, absolutely. We'll have a lot more conversations in this. Share with our listeners your Facebook group where they can find you.
So my Facebook group is called Omega-3 We Share Experiences. And if you're struggling with finding that, I have links from my website, foodchangeslives.com. I'm also on Facebook, Food Changes Lives. So
we'll put that in the show notes for our listeners. This has been fascinating, Michaela. Our food source, what's at the end of the fork, is telling our story of our health. I personally am going to join that Facebook group. I like to hear more of these testimonies. And it's those relatable stories that really help us make a difference and make changes in our own lives.
Thank you so much.
So here are my takeaways from today's show with Michaela, plus a little extra research I did on my own after our discussion, because the science of our bodies tends to be very fascinating for me. Here we are. Number 1, a healthy body begins with a healthy cell. Fatty acids play a crucial role in maintaining cellular health. Number 2, omega-3 fatty acids such as EPA and DHAs, and don't even ask me to spell that out in a scientific name, are essential for cellular health. They have anti-inflammatory properties and can help improve the cellular membrane function. Number 3, while omega-6 fatty acids are important, an excessive intake can promote inflammation when not balanced properly with omega-3s. Number 4, if you have difficulty getting enough omega-3s through your diet, consider fish oil supplements. But if they smell like fish, they've been over-oxidized and probably not that effective in delivering the intended health benefits. Oxidization can break down these fatty acids and reducing their bioavailability and efficacy. Number 5, pain can be caused by various factors, including injury, inflammation, and chronic conditions. Nutrition can play a role in managing pain. Anti-inflammatory foods like fruits, vegetables, and yes, omega-3 rich foods and supplements can help reduce inflammation and alleviate some types of pain. Number 6, nutrition also plays a significant role in brain health. Diets rich in antioxidants, omega-3 fatty acids, those EPAs and those DHAs we talked about, and a variety of vitamins and minerals can support cognitive function and reduce the risk of neurodegenerative diseases. And number 7, vitamin D requires magnesium for its proper absorption and metabolism in the body. Vitamin D is initially synthesized in the skin when exposed to sunlight or obtained from dietary sources. But it must undergo enzymatic conversions in order to become active. Magnesium is a cofactor in this enzymatic reaction. You can find all about the work that Michaela is doing on her website at foodchangeslives.com, and she's on Facebook, Food Changes Lives, as well as our Instagram handle, Omega-3 Education. Do you need support through your menopause transition? A menopause doula can help. You can find me at mlcoaching.com. And help me help you by filling out a simple survey, which is linked in the show notes. Your input is greatly valued and will help in the design and creation of tools, courses, and other resources for my upcoming one-on-one and group coaching programs. Take the survey, it's linked in the show notes. Like, follow, share, subscribe. And if you are enjoying this podcast, I would love to hear from you. Consider leaving a review. Spreading the word will help broaden my audience reach and further impact more women as they experience a transition. This is Mary Lee, all things menopausal.